Hello everybody, welcome back to Bible Corner Reviews. Today I'm reviewing another NLT. I'm honestly not very up to date on the options of the New Living Translation that are out there, mostly from Tyndale. There are some others, but I'm trying to get caught up on some things, and this is one of them. I know there are a lot of versions and editions out there of the NLT, and I've only scratched two of them off my list so far. So this is the Thinline Center Column Reference Bible in the rustic brown leather-like. And this is also a filament enabled. It's really hard to say sometimes. So this one has a few more features than the Thinline, the normal Thinline that I reviewed before. And it has basically a full reference system. So technically you don't have to utilize the app to get a full reference Bible. In this case, you can still use it definitely, but you won't have to in order to use this as a reference Bible. So here's some of the features on the back. And this one is printed in China, I believe. It says here. And these don't have the price tag on the box, which I think is actually kind of nice. These are retailing for around $28, so not too bad. The leather-like is very similar to the Lockman leather Tex, and I get those confused between publishers all the time. They have different names for everything because it's all copyrighted stuff. But it is a very clean, not super grainy imitation leather. It's a perimeter stitch line, brown thread. Again, you have that really clean Tyndale Holy Bible NLT, nothing else. So it's super plain, and I actually really like that. It does have the ISBN stamped on the back, but it's blind stamped, so it holds very well. Dimensions on this Bible are 5.5 inches tall. 5.5 inches wide. That makes more sense. 8 3/4 tall by just over an inch thick with the cover. The block is right at an inch, so the cover adds a little bit. So it still falls into that Thinline Bible, but as you can see, it is a little bit thicker. Brown head and tail bands and a single brown 1/4 inch ribbon. This one does have gold page gilding. And getting inside this Bible, you have the text here from Psalm 119, 105. Holy Bible, New Living Translation. So this is how you would log into the Filament app, is by taking a picture of that. Here is the publication information. Chinese printing, 2023 publication. These are the other options available in this Bible. So there are some genuine leather in black and brown. Contents goes over those very well. Alphabetical listings of the Bible. Intro to what the Filament app does. Note to the readers. A NLT introduction to the translation. And again, I would encourage you to read this if you have not read it, and really to read the introductions to any Bible that you own that you have not read and you are using that version. There's an introduction to the cross-reference system, and something I find really interesting to observe amongst the different reference Bibles and different translators and different publishers is that a lot of times reference Bibles have a unique theme, and sometimes it will be unique to that Bible alone, and other times it's just unique to that translation and that reference system of that translation. But this one has a word study system, which we'll kind of look at as we go. And I think it's just really cool. It offers a bit of depth to your reference system and word study. And I think that just is really nice, especially for a Bible that's very readable like this, that you might want to look deeper into the meaning of words. So books of the Bible have a brief introduction. It's very simple, but I really like what it covers. It has content, an outline, which those are always very helpful, and are very useful when it comes to getting a quick overview of where things happen in a book. There is author, date, purpose, and themes. So really basic, but it does orient you to what is going on. And then we have the layout, and I'll flip to a better page, but for now you can see has lines separating the text from the references, center column references. I'm not sure the text size of the references, but the Bible text I believe is a 9 point or a 9.5, and it is paragraph format. So let's flip to another section here, and you can see very easy to read. As I said in the other Thinline review, it has a very readable font, and I hadn't seen this Tyndale font for the NLT before, and I really like it. So there are footnotes at the bottom, so I really like this. Cross references are in the center, footnotes are at the bottom, they're separated. Very well done. I don't like it. That's my biggest gripe really about the New King James, is that they have them all mixed together, and some of the other translation as well. And it can get kind of confusing sometimes because they just get all jumbled together. So here is an example of the word study system. So here in Leviticus 23, you can see here in verse 32, Sabbath has a little X next to it. So you go to your cross references, and you'll see here Sabbath, which here is Shabbat, which Shabbat in Hebrew. And it has it in italics, and then there's a little side arrow under it that is pointing to Leviticus 25:2. And there are a select number of Hebrew and Greek words that are traced throughout the Bible. It's not a full, exhaustive tracing of that word through every single passage it's mentioned, but it does follow it through several significant ones. And it does have the Strong's reference system linked to that word. So it is linked to a very grounded form of word study. So here, this is a quick one. So looking at Leviticus 25:2, which is a page over, you can see here that Sabbath is mentioned again. And so when you look for your reference in here, you'll see Shabbat is mentioned again, and then your next reference. So it's very reminiscent of the Thompson Chain Reference Bible. If you have not seen that one before, it's one of the most well-known historic cross-reference Bibles really out there, I think. And it does have, there are some other Bibles out there that have it, but that one really has the full set of thematic references and word cross-references of pretty much any Bible. And this is very reminiscent of that, which I think is just really awesome in a Bible of this nature where it's really easy to read, but then you have that ability to go deeper in your word study. So I think that's just really cool. The poetic settings are a verse by verse. Looks really nice. And then in the New Testament, it is a red letter. And again, these red letters from Tyndale are pretty consistent. Like some of them get a little bit darker, but overall it reads really nice. And so can't really complain about it at all, which is pretty cool. At the end of Revelation, I'll get there eventually, is the word study system. And so this is called the NLT word study system with Hebrew, Greek dictionary, and index. And that does link to the Strong's concordance. So if you have your Strong's with you and this, you can do pretty much anything. Within reason, of course. So you have your references. As you can see, it's not very many, but it does have Old Testament, so Hebrew. And then you get into some New Testament later down here in the Greek words. So it does have about even numbers of Hebrew and Greek. And then after that, this is another thing I really like, and that is the dictionary concordance. I'm just become a really big fan of dictionary concordances. I don't know why, but I just like having that little bit of extra information. So this one is really good as well. So it has the references and where they can be found, as well as biographical sketches, which is primarily the extra material in the dictionary part of it. But there are some places or events or something that will have more info than just the cross-references. So really great. I love seeing those. And then at the back, you have another fun little feature, which I pointed out in the other Thinline review that I did. This is the most vibrant feature of these Thinline Bibles. It's a visual overview of the Bible. And I just think they did a really good job with it. So they have some maps, some charts. This is the plagues of Egypt, Israel's annual calendar. So it has the Jewish calendar and the different feasts listed in pictures. 12 tribes of Israel, kingdoms of Israel. This is a cool graph of the Psalms, kind of a dot graph sort of thing. This one I thought was really fun, and it is the prophets of Israel when they existed and when they taught. I thought it was a very helpful map to view. The exile, ministry of Jesus with the key points located. I always like these. These are very helpful, and they're just really cool. There's one going around the internet that I'm sure many of you have seen if you're into Bible study. It just has all of the Old Testament references in the New Testament and vice versa, just mapped out in this format, and it looks really cool, and it really gives a visual of how the Bible uses itself. Then you have a journey of the Christian leaders, so mainly Paul, but some of the others, and then at the back, the Old Testament and the New Testament. So, really like that little feature in the back. And then we get to the end. Might as well start with its closest relative, the NLT Thinline Reference. This one is in the genuine leather. As I pointed out in that review, it's not a super extensive reference Bible. It does have some cross-references, but it's very, very minimal. And so I would primarily think of it as just a normal Thinline. You do have the filament capabilities, but just as is a simple Thinline with a couple of cross-references. But the interior is a bit different because you don't have that extra material. Text size is very similar, but the layout is obviously a bit different. Overall size is very close. Obviously, the center column reference is a little bit thicker, but footprint-wise, essentially the same. I must confess that I don't own very many center column reference Bibles, and if any of you watched my video on the New King James Classic Center Column Reference, you'll know why. And I'll link that video in the description. It's called I Changed My Mind for many reasons. But I don't have very many of those because I didn't like them for the longest time. So this is actually an outdated comparison because this is the HCSB, which is no longer in print. It's now the CSB. But they do have a CSB of this layout and size available, so it will be a close comparison. So this one is their deluxe reference Bible. I think it was a calfskin cover. But interior-wise, has a very similar vibe. This one does not have the lines separating the text from the cross-references, but it does have the textual footnotes separated at the bottom. And you might have noticed the really strange thing about this one is the page number and the book and chapter reference are at the bottom, not at the top, which is honestly just a little weird. The second one here was this is a Thomas Nelson KJV Compact Center Column Reference Bible, which this one is actually a really nice addition of a center column reference Bible. It's an 8-point font, and you can see that it does have a very similar layout in that it has the lines separating the text from the cross references. The King James is a verse by verse, which is usually the case with King James. But this one does not have the same footprint because it is a compact. It is a little bit thicker, but it doesn't really compare any other way. So that's the Thinline Center Column Reference Bible from Tyndale in the New Living Translation. I said in my review of the genuine leather Thinline that it would probably be my Bible that I use to get acquainted with the NLT. I'm actually thinking I'll be using this one more often. And if you know me, it is something that I thought I would never say a while ago because of the center column reference, just not a style that I enjoyed. But I do now, and this one I think will make a great reference Bible in the NLT, especially since I love doing word studies and criticizing any English translation just because of the differences between Hebrew, Greek, and English. So I really like having those resources to study any translation with. So this one is a lot more appealing to me than the regular Thinline. So hopefully that was a helpful review, and thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.